In a suburban California town, a meteor known as Miller's Comet is scheduled to pass the area. As a result, 8 friends, led by hosts Mike and Lee, plan out a dinner reunion to celebrate the passing of the rare comet. At the agreed time, one of the guests named Emily pulls up at the venue and calls her boyfriend Kevin to inform him of her arrival. While on the call, Emily notices the network connection is bad and takes a look at her phone. To her utmost surprise, she discovers the phone screen had cracked on its own with no viable explanation as to how it happened. Emily finds this to be quite strange, but doesn't think much of it as she joins the reunion dinner. About an hour after Emily's arrival, her boyfriend, Kevin, alongside the other guests named Hugh, Beth, Lori, and Amir, also join the party. After exchanging pleasantries and catching up on their respective lives, the group finally settles down to have dinner. While they eat, Emily brings up the strange incident with her phone earlier and asks the others if they've experienced something similar. On checking their cells, they all realize that none of them have any service. Learning this, Emily gets spooked out and grows wary of the comet. She narrates a story that happened in the early 1920s when a similar comet had passed a small Finland village. Apparently, the town had received many scary reports of people getting disoriented and even losing their memories right as the comet passed over them. The group is spooked by the story, but quickly brushes it off as an urban myth as they steer the topic to a more lighthearted conversation. Several minutes into the dinner, Hugh checks his phone and discovers the screen is cracked, just like Emily's. Hugh is alarmed by this and grows concerned as he had made a promise to earlier check up on his brother. One of the guests uses the house's computer in hopes of getting internet service, but realizes the PC doesn't have network either. While the group ponders on their next step, the lights suddenly go out. Mike and Lee immediately light some candles and hand a bunch of blue glow sticks to the guests. Together, they all head outside and discover the blackout had affected the entire neighborhood, with only one house with electricity being 2 blocks away. Seeing this, they all look up at the night sky and spot the comet passing through the area. After staring at the meteor for a while, they all head back inside to wait for power. Over time, Hugh grows increasingly worried about his brother and considers heading to the house with electricity to ask for a working cell. Hugh's wife, Beth, is worried about him heading out alone and pleads with him to remain inside. To ease her concerns, Hugh asks Amir to come along with them, and together, both men leave the house in search of call service. About 10 minutes later, Hugh and Amir are still out and tensions begin to grow high in the house. Right then, a loud thud sounds at the door, causing the group to instantly jump to their feet. Frightened, they carefully peep outside, but are relieved to find no one there. Upon regaining their composure, Mike remembers the house has an old backup generator and tries to put it on. Luckily, it actually works and the lights are turned back on. Concerned about Hugh and Amir's safety, the group contemplates heading out to look for them. However, before they can do this, the duo returns carrying a box they found at the other house. A curious Mike quickly grabs the box and on opening it, sees several random but creepy items. Inside, he finds a ping pong paddle and pictures of them, each of which is marked with a random number. Naturally, they are all spooked out by this and immediately question the duo on what they saw outside. In response, Hugh gives a bizarre and reality-shattering answer. He claims to have peeped through the window and seen identical clones of them in the other house, having dinner just like they were minutes ago. The group is petrified by his response and tries to decipher a rational explanation for what he saw. They theorize Hugh may have lost his way and unknowingly circled back to the house. However, Hugh and Amir are adamant they did not get lost and swear that they truly saw clones of themselves. After answering their incessant questions, Hugh decides to return to the house and leave a note at the door for the occupants. Right as he finishes writing the note, Kevin hears a sound on the door and goes to check it out. He finds no one outside, but notices a note attached to the door. Upon reading it, he discovers that the letter is identical to the one Hugh had just completed. Now convinced that there's something supernatural afoot, the group tries to figure out their next step. Lee notices Hugh has a flesh wound on his head and offers him one of 2 plasters, a regular or a cloth band-aid. Hugh picks up the cloth option and Lee carefully uses it to cover his wound. and find them trying to decipher the numbers on the photo retrieved from the box. Emily writes down the numbers with their respective names on a notepad as the group futilely tries to find a connection between the figures. As Emily stares at the numbers, she discovers that they were written in her handwriting. She finds this to be very strange as she has no recollection of ever writing those numbers. Tired of staying indoor with no answers, the group decides to go outside to see the mystery house with clones for themselves. The group divides into two halves, with Emily, Kevin, Mike, and Lori heading out while the rest remain indoors. As the four-man group heads outside, they each carry along blue glow sticks to help them see through the dark. After barely walking a few meters from the house, they run into identical clones of themselves, each of which is holding a red glow stick. The two groups pause and stare at each other from across the street, but eventually run off in opposite directions back to their respective houses. Upon their return, the four-man squad explains what they saw out there. Due to the recent happenings, Emily asks if anyone has a book about comets that could help them make sense of their current situation. In response, Hugh mentions his brother is a physicist and gets one of his books related to the subject. Inside, he finds notes on decoherence and Schrödinger's cat. From it, they learn of a quantum physics theory that suggests the possibility of multiple realities simultaneously existing. Learning this, the group theorizes the comet may have distorted reality, causing multiple universes and their respective selves to overlap in a single timeline. This new information causes them to get on edge as they grow weary of their other selves. They consider the possibility of the comet fully passing and returning only one group to the original timeline. Not willing to take the risk, Mike suggests they head over to the other house and kill their clones. The group is instantly appalled by his plan and talks him out of doing it. Mike eventually agrees not to go ahead with this violent scheme, but insists on stopping the other group from discovering the multiverse theory. Mike pulls Kevin to the side and reveals his plan to stop their clones from finding the physics book. The host suggests they write a threat note to his cloned self to stop him and the entire group from reading the book. Mike discloses he has a secret he doesn't want Hugh to know about and suspects his clone wouldn't want it revealed either. After explaining this, Mike heads out to enact his plan and eventually returns several minutes later. Meanwhile, Lee, who has been napping over the past hour, finally wakes up and joins the others. She complains about feeling lightheaded and blames it on a concoction Beth had given her. This revelation immediately raises a red flag in the group, causing Emily to suspect that their entire experience that night might be a hallucination. Emily questions if Beth had added any drugs to their food, but she instantly denies this. Beth goes on to explain she only gave Lee the concoction because she had asked for a sleeping aid. To prove her innocence, Beth shows them the drug vial with its almost full contents. Seeing this, they realize she's indeed telling the truth and cross out hallucinations from their list of possible explanations. After the incident, Hugh and Amir silently distance themselves from the rest of the group to have a private conversation. They both reach into their pockets and pull out red glow sticks, thus revealing that they are not from the same reality as the others. Deciding to locate their original timeline, the duo clones steal the box they brought, alongside its contents, and quietly leave the house. Shortly after, the lights go out again, and the group notices Hugh and Amir are missing, along with the box they retrieved. Learning this, they realize the two men were actually clones from the other house. Just as they make the connection, they all hear a knock on the door and on opening it, find another version of Hugh and Amir. Lee affirms that they're a different pair upon noticing the plaster on Hugh's head is a regular band-aid and not the cloth type she had originally administered. Unlike the last clones, these variants have a pair of blue glow sticks, thus proving they're indeed on the right timeline. The duo has no recollection of returning to the house after their original departure and is shocked to discover another version of them was once in the house. Due to the recent mix-up, they unanimously decide to adopt a system to mark their house and to differentiate their unique timeline. Amir suggests they each roll a die to generate a totally random number and record the obtained figures. To help keep track of their roles, Mike finds photos of them he had in his album and proposes they write the individual roles on their respective pictures. After they all get their numbers, Emily writes down the figures and the pictures are sealed into the box. A random object is also added to ensure there is no chance the marker can be replicated. After they're done with this, the group finally understands the meaning of the mystery box they found earlier, realizing it to be a marker from another timeline. Moments later, Hugh finds yet another note attached on the door. However, this time, the message is a blackmail text directed at Mike. The message instructs him to stop the group from finding the book, or else Hugh would discover his secret. On hearing the message, Mike realizes one of his variants had mimicked his previous actions and had sent him a threat note just like he had done. A curious Hugh is greatly disturbed by the blackmail and heatedly asks Mike what the mentioned secret was. After much cajoling, Mike finally reveals he slept with Hugh's wife, Beth, several years ago. The hurt husband immediately gets livid because who would want to sleep with a guy like Mike? And he attacks Mike with a quick punch in the face. Seeing this, the rest of the guys swiftly intervene and pull Hugh away. While Mike recovers from the blow, another Mike variant enters into the house and pounces on the original. A shocked Emily raises an alarm, prompting the group to rush to the scene. Realizing he's outnumbered, the variant Mike sprints out the door and into the street. Overwhelmed by the crazy happenings that night, Emily exits the house to get some air. She walks down the streets and peeps inside all the houses she passes. Through the window, Emily sees various versions of herself and her friends. Just like the original group, most of the clones are arguing and on edge. However, one house is distinctively unlike the others. Inside, Emily notices this group is enjoying their reunion dinner and is completely oblivious to the existence of clones and the multiverse. Emily realizes none of the puzzling events of the night had occurred in that reality and grows envious of her clone in the peaceful house. Fueled by jealousy, Emily smashes the windscreen of Hugh's car, which creates a noise that attracts the clones to the outside. As the group splits up to check on their individual cars, Emily launches an ambush on her clone. With the element of surprise on her side, she successfully knocks her out and dumps her unconscious body inside the car trunk. With her clone gone, the original Emily enters the house and seamlessly takes her place. Unfortunately, her takeover is far from complete, as Emily discovers the injured clone had escaped and staggered back into the house's bathroom. Emily quietly follows her clone into the bathroom and hits her on the head with a ceramic cover, after which she hides the body in a bathtub. Before joining the others, Emily realizes she had lost her ring during the fight and steals her clone's ring to avoid arousing suspicion. On reaching the living room, Emily gets lightheaded and passes out as her friends rush to her aid. The next morning, she wakes up long after the comet had passed and is shocked to discover everything had returned to its original state. None of her friends seemingly have any recollection of the strange events, and this leads Emily to believe it may have all been a weird dream. She heads outside to scout the area and finds Kevin standing by the road. After checking up on her, Kevin hands Emily her ring, which he found on the bathroom floor last night. Emily is instantly puzzled by this and on collecting it, notices she has 2 rings, hence proving the events of last night truly did happen. In the closing scene, it is revealed that Emily is a terrible clone eliminator, as Kevin receives a call from Emily's clone and suspiciously stares at the original while trying to figure out his next move. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.